I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons first. Thank you so much to my Bibliospren, Bibliohowlers, and my Bibliomancers. It means a lot to me that you give me your extra support for my passion and hobby. Hi everyone, Petrik here. So this is one of the most requested videos lately because from the past 2 years, I've been reading all of Michael J. Sullivan's books. Again, now I have read the Riyria Revelations for the first time in the year 2017, but I decided to do another reread. I think it was last year. Yeah, it was the beginning of last year. And then I attempted to finish reading the Legends of the First Empire series as well. And the year before that, in the year 2021, I did my first read of the Riyria Chronicles, and now I have finally finished reading the last book in the Rise and Fall trilogy, Ashra Hadon. And yeah, as you can probably tell, that's 4 series, and that's about 19 books. 4 of this series, all of them takes place in the World of Elan, and because I've been talking about these books on my channel for, well, quite a while, well, many have asked me for a reading guide on Michael J. Sullivan's books. Now, as usual, we have 2 methods here. One is publication order, and the second one is chronological order. And if you don't want to hear my full thoughts and explanation, well, I will make this simpler for you. Just read the publication order. Yeah, it is that simple. Just read the Riyria Revelations first, the Riyria Chronicles, and then Legends of the First Empire, and then finally the Rise and Fall trilogy. That's the order that I recommend, and now I will explain to you in full details without any spoilers on why I recommend this reading order, and then after that I will talk about chronological order. So yeah, let's begin immediately, and at the end of this video I will talk about my ranking for the series in the World of Elan by Michael J. Sullivan. First, of course, I will have to recommend you to start reading from Michael J. Sullivan's most popular work, and that is the Riyria Revelations. The Riyria Revelations was originally self-published, I think it was in the year 2008, but ever since 2011 it has been picked up by Orbit, and now it is traditionally published by Orbit Books. The series consists of 6 books: The Crown Conspiracy, Avamparta, Nifron Rising, The Emerald Storm, and then Wintertide, and finally The Heir of Navran. And these 6 books have been compiled into 3 omnibus by Orbit Books. They are The Theft of Swords, The Rise of Empire, and finally The Heir of Navran. Oh, sorry, for correction, the 6th book in the series is titled Persepliquis. Theft of Swords compiled the first 2 books, and then The Rise of Empire compiles the book 3 and book 4, and finally Heir of Navran compiled book 5, Wintertide, and finally book 6, Persepliquis. This is the series that I recommend every reader who want to try reading Michael J. Sullivan's books for the first time to read first, because this one shows the organic development in Michael J. Sullivan's writing, and also it shows just how good Michael J. Sullivan is at crafting characters and also making a very satisfying ending. It is still one of the best satisfying ending to a series that I have ever read. But I do have to recommend this with a caveat, because I have also received plenty of comments saying that they couldn't get into the Riyria Revelations because they did not like the first 2 books. So they are The Crown Conspiracy and also Avamparta. They did not like this one. They felt it was too simple. The writing was not purple enough, and sometimes the writing felt too modern. Yeah, this is some of the most criticism that I heard from many readers of the series, many readers who want to try reading the series for the first time, and I cannot blame them, because if you have been following my channel or reviews, you will know that I did not like the first omnibus Theft of Swords. I was not a fan, and there is a lot of hype and praises toward the Riyria Revelation, especially regarding the brotherhood of Royce and Hadrian. And yeah, now that I have finished reading the Riyria Revelations, of course I have to agree with their praises, but back then I did not agree with them. Now, if you're one of them, like me, who did not like the first omnibus, I strongly recommend you to try reading at least Rise of Empire first. Yes, Rise of Empire is the second omnibus. If you have finished reading, let's say, the first title in the second omnibus and you still did not like it, well, maybe the series might not be for you yet. But with that in mind, I still would not recommend you to give up completely immediately. Instead, try reading the second series that you have to read first, and that is the Riyria Chronicles. So the Riyria Chronicles takes place 10 years before the events of the Riyria Revelations. The entire events of the Riyria Revelations happens within the space of 2 years, and for the Riyria Chronicles it will be about 10 years. But these books, so far there are 4 books available, and they are The Crown Tower, The Rose and the Thorn, and then The Death of Dulgat, and finally The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter. And for this one, this series, it depicts the details of Royce and Hadrian's first encounter. And also, because this is written after the Riyria Revelations was finished, well, it is suffice to say that the writing is of course more well polished compared to the writing in the first omnibus in the Riyria Revelations. So if you want a more chronological character development in the main characters, Royce and Hadrian, and you want to meet how they met first before, well, the end of their journey in the Riyria Revelations, well, you should start from the Riyria Chronicles first. Some fans of the series have mentioned that they started reading from the Riyria Chronicles and they end up loving the Riyria Revelations because they felt connected with the characters in the Riyria Chronicles. And also the writing, as I said, it is more well polished. I think the bottom line is this: you cannot go wrong with reading Riyria Revelations or Chronicles first. Many have mentioned Revelations is better, many have mentioned that Chronicles is better as a starting point. It is up to you which one do you prefer, but I, after thinking about it, recommend you to try reading Revelations first and see how you feel about it. But if you end up liking the first 2 volumes in the Riyria Revelations already, that's the first omnibus, I guarantee you, you will have a great time reading the rest of the series, and that includes Riyria Chronicles as well. So my first recommendation, before you tackle the other series, before you tackle the other series in the World of Elan, read the first 10 books in the Riyria books first, and that is the Riyria Revelations or the Riyria Chronicles. And now, after you're done with the Riyria books, I think it is safe to say that you should start reading from Legends of the First Empire. So Legends of the First Empire, you can kind of consider this like the Silmarillion of Middle-earth, but for the World of Elan. Now, do not worry, it is not as complex as Silmarillion, not at all. It is so much more simpler. But if you think that the world building in the World of Elan from reading the Riyria Revelations and also Chronicles are simple, I think you will be mistaken when you read the Legends of the First Empire and also finally the Rise and Fall trilogy, because Michael J. Sullivan's intention for the Legends of the First Empire is to show that the real mythology and the real story behind the world building and the lore in the Riyria books are skewed and changed because of the passage of time. And in Legends of the First Empire, we are going to witness the real history behind every important figures and gods in the Riyria books. And I like reading it. Legends of the First Empire, the first book is Age of Myth, takes place 3,000 years before the events of the Riyria Chronicles and Revelations. Let's say that the year of the Riyria Chronicles is 2988, and for the Riyria Revelations it is 2998. The story so far chronologically has been finished in the year 3000 at the end of the Riyria Revelations. So for Legends of the First Empire, you have 6 books to read, and they are Age of Myth, Age of Sword, Age of War, Age of Legend, Age of Death, and finally Age of Empire. The main reason why I recommend you to read this after you finish reading the Riyria Revelations and also the Chronicles first, well, it is to make sure you are acquainted with the important characters that is mentioned in this prequel series, like Persephone, Nifron, and of course many more. But more importantly, there is one character, and more actually, but this one character exists pretty much throughout the entire history of the World of Elan. And I think it is better to find out about this character first in the Riyria Revelations. I think that is the best way, because that ending was super satisfying. Whether you manage to predict the ending of the Riyria Revelations or not, I think you will still feel satisfied by how it ended. I think it is still, as I said, one of the best ending sequence that I have ever read. Now, by reading that ending first, you will know the importance of this character when you meet him again in Legends of the First Empire. In Legends of the First Empire, you will see the origin story of this character and at the same time of the main villain in the World of Elan. You don't actually really have to read Legends of the First Empire if you only want to know about, well, the duo in the Riyria Revelations and the Riyria Chronicles, the main duo and their relationship with all the other characters. But if you want to know the full details of the world and also the possible sequel to Riyria maybe in the future, I think it is mandatory for you to read the Legends of the First Empire first. And of course, after that, you have to read the Rise and Fall trilogy. I think the existence of the Rise and Fall trilogy is where many readers who want to try reading the Riyria books or anything in the World of Elan started to feel more confused and intimidated, because the Rise and Fall trilogy it's always marketed as a series of standalone books, and technically I guess it is true. Each book in the trilogy is a standalone books, but I do not think they are actually possible to enjoy to the fullest without reading the Riyria books and also the Legends of the First Empire first. It is, in my opinion, very much mandatory for you to read the other three series first before reading the Rise and Fall trilogy that consists of Nolin, Farilyn, and finally Esarhaddon. Nolin takes place about 850 years after the end of Age of Empire, and then Farilyn takes place about 1,000 years after the end of Nolin. And then 200 years later, we have the story in Esarhaddon. Esarhaddon takes place about 800 years before the events of the Riyria Chronicles. This huge time gap does not mean you can actually enjoy this to the fullest if you start reading from Nolin, Farilyn, or Esarhaddon, even though all three of them are actually marketed as standalone books in the beginning of each book. I do not recommend you to start your journey in the World of Elan from the Rise and Fall trilogy. Esarhaddon in particular feels like a culmination of everything that Michael J. Sullivan has written in the World of Elan. I obviously cannot go into too much detail about this because, well, it will be spoilers for many aspects of all the series in the World of Elan. But yeah, I think Esarhaddon needs to be the 19th book in your reading journey in the World of Elan. If you're watching this and you have actually read the Riyria books, then you will know who Esarhaddon is. And reading this book, reading Esarhaddon, actually surprised me how much I now feel invested and emotionally attached to this character. And because my reading order goes like that, so my reading order went the Riyria Revelations, the Riyria Chronicles, Legends of the First Empire, and also finally the Rise and Fall trilogy. As I said, publication order. But once you're done reading all four of this series, I think you will feel what I feel right now. And that is, I want to do another reread of all the books in the World of Elan. Michael J. Sullivan pretty much interconnect everything in the 19 books. Everything. There are aspects from the first book that you can see from the Riyria books and vice versa. So having read all 19 books will definitely enhance and change your experience of reading through them again, because you now have a full capability and scope of the series. So at the end of the day, my reading guide and my reading recommendation is to follow the publication order. And this is not the end of the World of Elan. Yeah, we still have, I think, a few more books before we reach the end of the World of Elan. For example, the fifth book in the Riyria Chronicles, Drumindor, is coming in the year 2024. That's the fifth book in the Riyria Chronicles series, and I do not think it will be the last. I think at least we will get one more book, so at the end, we will have 6 books, just like the Riyria Revelations. And by the end of Esarhaddon, Michael J. Sullivan has mentioned at the end of the book that he has a plan to actually finally write a continuation to the Riyria Revelations. And I cannot blame him for this. I do not know whether this will focus again on some of the main characters in the Riyria or not, but chronologically it will happen after the end of Persepliquis, and I think I have an idea who will it focus on. But I do not think that is happening anytime soon. But if you want to try reading everything in chronological order, feel free to do it, and I think your experience will be completely different from mine. But whether you decide to read from a publication order or chronological order, I think I can safely say that you will still enjoy your second read through the entire series. Because, as I said, just for example, I have read the Riyria Revelations twice. And on my second read, my experience of Riyria Revelations improved insanely because I feel attached to the characters. And now, here is my ranking for which series I like the most in the World of Elan. And I will start from my least favorite. And this is Legends of the First Empire. Without going into too much detail, my favorite book in the entire series is Age of War. My least favorite is Age of Sword. And I also felt a bit disappointed with the ending of Age of Empire because it did not feel conclusive enough or satisfying enough, just like what I witnessed in the Riyria Revelations. But it is still a great series. There is no doubt about that. Even though it is my least favorite in the World of Elan, it is still a great series. And my second favorite is, of course, the Rise and Fall trilogy. Like Nolan, I love Farilyn, and of course, I absolutely love Ezra Haddon. It's not a perfect book. I still have a few tiny issues with it, but overall it is incredible, and it is probably the most important book that will enhance my experience of reading through all the books in the Riyria books again, especially the Riyria Revelations. As for my favorite, of course, it will have to be the Riyria books. I just consider Revelations and Chronicles as combined now because they are focus and centers on the same main characters. And yeah, Riyria Chronicles do features a more standalone tale, especially in the death of Dulgat and also the disappearance of Winter's daughter. But at the end of the day, as I always say, they always make the characters more likable and more in-depth in their personality and their actions. I always say this: Royce and Hadrian have become like a real friends to me. I think that's when you know you have found something special, because I certainly have found some series with that kind of connection, that kind of deep connection I managed to form with the characters. I cannot really say which one I like more between Chronicles and also Revelations right now, because Chronicles is not finished yet. And although technically Riyria Chronicles is more well written, but I still have to say that the events, the plotting, and how pretty much everything constantly escalates to a higher quality up to Persepliquis, it makes the Riyria Revelations the most special out of all 4 series in the World of Elan for me. So in conclusion, if you are reading this in chronological order, you are essentially reading my ranking from my least favorite to the best one. I hope this reading guide has been helpful to you, and I will also attach Michael J. Sullivan's reading guide on the description down below. And finally, before I really end this video, I have posted a full spoiler-free review for each book in the World of Elan. Yeah, 19 books. It has been quite a ride, and it is not over yet. I look forward to reading Drumindor next year, and do tell me what you think about my reading order, and do you love every books in the World of Elan or just the Riyria books? Well, do tell me in the comment section down below. And there are still some short stories taking place in the World of Elan, whether it's the Riyria books or also Legends of the First Empire, but I think they are not too crucial to read. They are all very short and they all felt like side quests in my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me today. Let me know what you think about the World of Elan, and also, as always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.